Welcome everybody to the Wisconsin Science Festival virtual field trip. Today's session is all about invertebrates and how cool they are. We're glad that you're here. We're going to get to talk to a couple of our naturalists from Aldo Leopold Nature Center. We have Anna, and we'll give Anna a chance to introduce themselves in just a moment. But in the meantime, if you want to participate in the call, we'd love to have your questions. Questions about nature, questions about invertebrates, questions about the things that you're seeing and hearing today, and questions for our scientists. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in the Q&A feature, and then I will ask those questions so that we can get those answered for you in real time. All right. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Anna, our naturalist over at the Aldo Leopold Nature Center.
Awesome, thank you. Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Anna from the Aldo Leopold Nature Center. I'm an environmental educator here, and we're going to learn about invertebrates. So the first thing I want to cover is what is an invertebrate. They are anything that does not have a backbone. So vertebrate refers to the backbone. Invertebrate means there is no backbone. So that includes things like all insects are invertebrates, but not all invertebrates are insects. So we have spiders are included in the invertebrates. We have worms are invertebrates, moths are invertebrates, butterflies are invertebrates, pill bugs, roly-polies are all invertebrates. So today we are going to try to find some invertebrates around here. So they like to live where there is rotting logs because they like to break down that wood that is decaying along with some of the fungi that lives there. So we are in one of our areas where we love to log flip called Toad Alley. And we're going to do a little bit of log flipping, and then I'll show you what invertebrates we find, and I'll also point out some other invertebrates that we collected earlier. So let's find some logs. Maybe we'll go to this one over here. We have this log. You can see it's decaying. It's got a lot of fungus on it, which is a good sign that there might be some invertebrates right underneath. We'll give it a flip and see what we can find. Sometimes you need to move around some leaves because they like to hide under there, especially on a cold day like today. Oh, here is a very small, here we have a millipede, a very small one, and a very small pill bug, and another very small millipede. I'll pick this one up and show you up close if we can. So this is a small millipede. It is rolled up. They do that when they feel threatened. So when I rolled the log over, they kind of became a little bit scared and rolled up. And another animal that rolls up is the pill bug, which I think is now hiding. Oh, right up here. So this one looks like a pill bug. This one is actually a sow bug. So the pill bug and the sow bug look very similar. They are often what we call roly-polies, but the real ones that roll up are the pill bugs. And you can tell that this is a sow bug because it's got these appendages that are going far out, where the pill bugs are rounded on both ends. And you will see them roll up potentially. So we have these. Let's see if we can find, oh, the millipede is starting to come out a little bit and move around. So you can see all the many legs. It does not really have 1,000 legs like the name kind of suggests, but they do have a lot, and they've got like a double layer of legs. You can see it move around. And you'll see them often. You can see this one is going under the dirt and under the leaves. It is a cold day, and as winter starts to get closer, a lot of these invertebrates will go into hiding, to do a little bit of hibernation. Some of them freeze, sort of like, I don't know if you've heard frogs freeze and turtles freeze. A lot of invertebrates also freeze for the winter, so they're starting to go into that, especially under leaves that are on the ground, which is why it is also important that as leaves fall, that we leave them on the ground for all those little invertebrates and insects that are trying to find some home. So let's see if we can find some other stuff in another log. We'll put this back for all those. All right, let's see this big log over here. So again, all of these are decaying, which means they are great homes for the bugs. Ugh, here we go. All right, let's see. Okay, this is not an invertebrate, but there is a little toad. How fun. So this one is a vertebrate, but it's a cool find. You can find so many things when you're flipping logs. You can sort of see it. Maybe it'll move around. I don't want to bother it too much. Nice. Maybe it'll hop around. Well, we can keep looking for other invertebrates while we watch the toad as well. Maybe there's less around here. These logs do get flipped often by our students, so sometimes the invertebrates kind of know that there's people around and they'll hide. There it goes. Oh, that is so exciting. So this log I'm going to leave unflipped as the toad is moving around a little bit. But we'll go find another log that maybe has more stuff underneath. But that was really exciting. That's why this place is called Toad Alley. We have a lot of toads that like to find homes here. Okay, this one could be good too. Lots of fungus on the side. I'll show some of those. Some of this fungus tells us that this rotting, so that's a good sign. Okay, let's see what we find under here. And this cavity also tells us that this log is decaying very well. And as I look for these invertebrates, I'm having a gentle hand move stuff around. I don't want to really scare them too much. Oh, here's, oh, it's a little spider. See if we can get it focused. I've got a little tiny spider. I'm not gonna lie, I am unsure what kind of spider this is, but we found a little one. One that spiders often are confused to be insects, but they are not. They are arachnids, but they are invertebrates. Very fun. All right, let's put them down and see.
Anna,
Maybe we can find. Yes,
I'm just curious. Can you tell us where in the state of Wisconsin Aldo Leopold
yes,
Nature Center is located? And then if these are kind of similar things that the students on the call could find in their own backyards around the state of Wisconsin?
yes. Yeah, absolutely. So we are in Monona in Wisconsin, very close to Madison. And yeah, a lot of these insects and bugs and the invertebrates that we're finding, you can find in your own backyard. If you find a log that, from a dead tree that has been sitting there for a while, you can flip over that log and you'll find a lot of these similar things like especially the sow bugs, the pill bugs, and worms. You can find those almost everywhere. Although worms are not native to Wisconsin, but they are very common. So you'll be able to find all of these things, or these are things you could find, even in your own backyard, at your school, anywhere outside. Also under rocks, often you will find them. They like dark and damp places. So anywhere that you have that environment, you can find some of those. Okay, we can try to flip one more log and see if there's maybe a question. Oh, and there's a squirrel behind me just now. Ah, lovely. Okay, we'll find one more log and then we'll open it up for some questions if there are any. Okay.
While Anna's flipping that log, go ahead and type those questions in the Q&A feature and then we'll ask those.
Oh, here we have another sow bug right on the log. Oh, and another millipede. These are the ones I've been seeing the most this last few days. And some slugs. Oh, and I found a slug down here as well. Oh, two slugs. Oh, okay, I'm moving slowly. We have a slug right here, and another slug, and pill bug. And I saw a centipede go under, so I'm gonna see if we can find it again. I think the centipede went deep inside. But we don't want to bother them too much. We just want to make sure that they are feeling safe and we're not really taking apart the environment. But we can move around some of the stuff to reveal what is under here. If we can find something else. We have a teeny tiny sow bug right here. Very, very small. Oh, here's the centipede right here. It's moving fast. I'm gonna try to catch it. There we go. Oh, it moved too fast. Well, yep, I think it got away. Well, that probably means it did not want to be held. Understandable. But we'll flip this one and then I can take some questions if there are any so far.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Um, First, are insects cold-blooded or warm-blooded?
Oh, they, I feel, I don't know the exact answer. I feel like they are cold-blooded, but I guess it depends on which one. But they generally, yeah, they don't heat themselves up like humans do, which is what makes me feel like they are cold-blooded. They do need some sun, or a lot of the times, like I know I study a lot of monarch butterflies, and they will sort of like they will shiver like humans do to warm up. That's a great question. We could investigate that.
Yeah. Do you know how long ago it was that the first invertebrate was like discovered or observed?
Wow.
And that like we
I
then we knew it was an invertebrate, like
Yeah, since like the classification
hmm
started. Wow, that's a fantastic question. I guess I am not sure. I feel like it's probably like the actual classification happened more recently than the first observation of an invertebrate. So I'm not sure when like scientists actually named them invertebrates, but they've been around since even before we were around. So invertebrates have been around forever, but I don't know when we decided to call them that. Good question though.
Yeah. Another question I have just about like studying insects. Um, how do you study them and like how do you know where to look for them and what kind of things do they eat? I know we're talking about a lot of different
Yeah.
invertebrates here, but like you were kind of describing their habitat. I'm wondering if you could just tell us a little bit more about how you study.
Yes, so we can study them. I'll start with like where do you know where to find them? Again, if you're looking for like a lot of the decomposers, what we're looking at right here, they will be around rotting or dead wood. If you're looking for other insects that are more like pollinators, you can find them in a prairie where there's lots of flowers for them to get pollen from and nectar. So you really need to know like each specific bug and sort of what they need. A lot of them eat plants. There are some that eat other bugs. So you kind of have to know each specific one. So like for example, if spiders will eat other bugs, um, and dragonflies will eat mosquitoes. So those, you can find those where there is a lot of wet and there's a lot of mosquitoes. So you kind of need to know where each specific bug will have a different story. And then to study them, a lot of scientists capture them in a safe way. So I've done some capturing of bumblebees in the net, or some bumblebees are really, really tame. So you can even just grab them gently and they generally won't sting you if you are being gentle. And you can study so many parts of it. You can look at them through a telescope or you can just look at them as a whole. Some scientists study their DNA, where you could take samples of their body parts and study them that way. So there are many ways to study insects and bugs, and most times we return them back to where they belong. At least here at the Nature Center, when we are looking at them, we come with magnifying glasses and we turn over logs, we can pick up our bugs, and then we put them back where we found them and flip the logs back over to leave the environment as best as we can untouched so they can continue to have a safe habitat.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
I know like worldwide, there's like something like 900,000 species of insects, or like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of species.
Yes.
How many species of insects do you think we have in the state of Wisconsin or in the area in Monona by the Aldo Leopold Nature
Yeah,
Center?
yeah, yeah. I can't tell an exact number, but I would. I would be close to the thousands as well. Insects and well, invertebrates specifically are the most diverse classification. So there are more types of insects than any other type of bug. So there are thousands and thousands of them. I'm sure that there are also thousands around here.
Well, we've talked a little bit about the logs. I can see a bunch of those logs around. Are those
Yeah.
there? They're just cut logs, just trying to be great habitats, right?
They have a dual purpose, so they are here to be a habitat and also a play area. So oftentimes our students will come here to play, whether it is to flip logs or to stack them or to stand on them. A very popular game here is the floor is lava because you have a lot of great logs to stand on. So we did put them here because it was a good habitat and also to allow kids to play in this area and interact with nature that way.
And then the question is like, why do they live in the logs? And that's just kind of, you were talking about how it's like a good habitat and it kind of protects them. Is there anything special about these logs, or could any log be a good habitat for an invertebrate?
Yeah, any log can be a good habitat. It is mostly that they are breaking down and decaying. Some of the softer ones will, break down a little bit faster, and harder wood will break down a little slower. But all logs that are decaying and have like a damp and dark environment will be good habitat for an invertebrate.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, so just some questions about invertebrates. What's the
Mhm.
smallest? What's the largest? Do they have a brain? There's a lot of interesting questions about that kind of stuff.
Yes, well, there are many, many types of invertebrates. Again, they include things like worms, even mollusks, and anything that doesn't have a backbone. So the smallest, I don't know, like microorganisms, like really teeny tiny that we can't even see with our eyes, um, are invertebrates. And the biggest, I guess I haven't looked at what the biggest is, but like a crab, a lobster all have these like exoskeletons, so they are invertebrates. And so those are pretty big, but I don't know what the biggest one would be. That is a great question. I should look into that one. Good one.
Awesome. A question here about how, um, oh, sorry, I'm in the wrong place here.
That's okay.
Um, why do you like studying nature and invertebrates and insects, and why did you choose to become a scientist?
Oh, I love this question. I love to study. Oh, I love nature since I was younger. I really like to play in nature. And then I went to school. I studied environmental studies, so I really just enjoyed learning about what is out there. I really like exploring nature and specifically invertebrates and insects. I have a huge passion, as I mentioned earlier, for monarch butterflies. I am from Mexico City, which is near where they overwinter. So I've seen their overwintering grounds. And then when I moved to the US, I saw them again for the first time in a very long time and learned that they were the same monarchs, not the same exact monarchs, but the same population that moves to where I saw them many years ago. So I had this great passion for them. And I just think they're really interesting to study. Again, insects and invertebrates there are so many of them. So there's always something to learn. And I really enjoy learning about them. And yeah, why I chose this, I love teaching everyone about nature. I think it's so important and a great way to start having people think about their impact on the planet as well. So I chose this path of being an educator and teaching science so then I can hopefully inspire some young minds to care about nature like I do and, to take care of it as we grow up.
That's really awesome. Thank you for sharing that about the
Yeah.
monarchs and all kinds of stuff. That's really interesting. One question was more about like studying your path as a scientist. How long have you studied insects? Can you tell us a little bit more about the monarchs and if you study butterflies?
Yes, of course. As I mentioned, I went to college for environmental studies and I started that in 2019. So since 2019, I've been specifically studying and being a scientist. And then my senior year was when I really started to focus on the monarch butterflies. So I did a summer program at a farm in Idaho, and part of that program was to do a little bit of monarch monitoring or milkweed monitoring. So we'd go out to some patches of milkweed, which is the plant that the monarch caterpillar eats and that the monarch adult lays eggs on. And we would go and count how many eggs, how many caterpillars, how many butterflies we find, and the state of the patch itself to see if it was healthy, if it had been mowed, if there were other insects around. So that really kicked off my desire to study the monarchs, besides just being fascinated by them. And again, that connection to my hometown, that really got me to start studying them. And at the same time, there were some really big wildfires around where I was living. And that was during the time when we were studying the monarchs or when we were monitoring the milkweed. So I would come back the next time after the wildfire started and there seemed to be less activity. Milkweed wasn't doing as well. And that for me sparked a question of how wildfires and how certain ways that the wildfires are affecting these patches also affect the monarch population. So I did a little bit of an experiment with that in school for my senior year for my thesis, where I treated some seeds with water that has been like I guess infected by smoke. So there was like smoke in that water. And then I treated the seeds and saw how the different growth of the milkweed happened. And in my very small, limited experiment, I actually found that this milkweed had it did not react at all to the smoke, which is great. For as like wildfires become more common, it's great that the milkweed can still grow. So that is like my main focus. And then after I graduated, then I found some research jobs at the university here at UW-Madison in some bumblebee studies, and then I became an educator. So I've just had a whole journey of science and then going into education.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that journey. That's
Yeah,
super interesting.
of course.
I didn't know that about milkweed and wildfire smoke. That's good to know.
Yeah, it was a great experiment.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I have about 10 questions,
Wow. Okay.
just wondering about specific things about invertebrates. And I'll list them and maybe
Sure.
you can kind of give us an overview, but like,
Yes, that
what's
sounds
their
good.
lifespan? Are they
Mhm.
intelligent? Can any of them fly? Are any nocturnal? Are any poisonous? And are they wide varieties of colors?
Ooh, I love all these questions. So I would say they are intelligent. Animals react to the environment very well. They can adapt to how things are going. They're not super fast at adapting, but they can adapt. As we saw, like yesterday, it was much warmer, much sunnier, and there was a lot more invertebrates and insects out and about. And today it's a lot colder and there are less around, or you could see all of them like they roll up to react to when there is danger. So I would say that they are intelligent creatures. And yes, they do fly. So butterflies are also invertebrates, and bees are invertebrates. Ants, like the queens, are invertebrates, and they can fly. So we do have a lot of flying invertebrates, and for sure a lot of different colors of invertebrates. I mean, even if you look at the bigger ones, again, like butterflies, but even slugs, there's a lot of different colors of slugs. There are a lot of different types of beetles. There's some very beautiful beetles, or cicadas are also invertebrates, and they've got a beautiful color as well. So we've got a big range of colors in that, um, in the invertebrate class.
Yeah. Thank you. One time I was hiking in the redwoods and found a banana slug, and that was a
Oh,
surprising color
yes.
and a really large slug. It was really fun to watch those.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking of when I was talking how slugs have different colors. Is the banana slug is quite stark in how
Yeah.
bright it is and big.
It's pretty big, like a
Yeah.
couple inches. Um,
Yes.
so when you're studying invertebrates, do you have to be out in the wild looking under logs and in their like habitats, or is there kind of like a museum where you can find these things, or like a zoo but just for insects or just for invertebrates? Is there kind of places you can go to learn that are not at Aldo Leopold Nature Center?
Yes, I mean, I have not heard of a zoo that is just for invertebrates, but I do know that at least the zoo, the Henry Violet Zoo here, does have some insect uh exhibits. And many museums. I haven't personally been to a lot of museums since I've moved here. It's been really recent, but a lot of them will also have some exhibits that talk about like really old invertebrates, or we'll have some displays of that for sure. So you don't necessarily have to be out in the wild to learn about them. I'm sure even if you go to the library and check out some invertebrate books, there's stuff to learn there as well.
Fantastic. All right. Are there any invertebrates that you are afraid of?
Oh, that I am afraid of. Uh, a little bit. I think certain spiders are a little bit scary to me for sure. I am less excited about grabbing those. Or here at the Nature Center, we have two Madagascar hissing cockroaches, which are really cool. Love to see them. They hiss really, really loud when you grab them, and so that scares me a little bit. So yes, there are some that I'm afraid of, most notably those cockroaches and certain big spiders.
Cool. Yeah, that's very cool to think about. Um, what is your favorite invertebrate to study? I mentioned the butterflies, but
Oh,
is there another
yeah.
one that's like your favorite to study other than butterflies?
Ooh, give this one a think. Well, I really like slugs. I don't study them a lot, but I can show you some that we caught actually this morning. I think slugs are so cute. Not the most popular opinion, but I think they can be so sweet. So let me see if I can find you one so we can take a peek. Oh, here we go. So some of my students this morning went out hunting for invertebrates for us, and we found a couple slugs. And here is one little slug, just right here, and there's an ant crawling next to it.
Can
And
you,
I also really enjoy beetles. I feel like those are really neat. They're so colorful.
what's that slug eating? What does a slug eat?
Ooh, they are eating. So we grabbed some grass and like dandelions and creeping Charlie. They are plant eaters, so they will eat leaves and grasses. These are not any like particular type, just the grass from the land here.
I think that I heard once that slugs are kind of nocturnal more, that they're real active at night. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah, they are. A lot of the times, like when it gets darker, some of those invertebrates, including slugs, will be a little bit more active, but they are active during the day too.
Mhm.
But largely nocturnal.
So when they're not active, are they sleeping? Do they have like sleep cycles like vertebrates do?
Yeah, so they do sleep. They go a little bit inactive. Like some will roll up. I can find one of our woolly moth caterpillars. They roll up to sleep to sort of go into this state where they're not super active. So we have one right here. This is the woolly moth, woolly bear caterpillar. And
Mhm.
right now it's actually more active than it was earlier, but they do roll up, and that's how a lot of invertebrates will go inactive, is that they'll get kind of small or hide under a leaf or in the dirt. And they do sleep.
Cool. I see the woolly bear that you're holding. And I grew up on a farm in Wisconsin, and my dad always said that like the color of the brown band had something to do with the prediction for winter. Is there any truth behind
Oh
that?
yeah. There is not. I actually had only learned about that myth yesterday. But no, the color of their band is probably due to something else, whether that is maybe some of the environmental conditions and also just like our hair will like grow in different colors. They also have different genes that are causing those colors. So I don't know. It's not really predicting winter, but it might tell us something else about the environment that maybe does correlate with some sort of winter activity. But they can't predict what's gonna happen. That'd be cool though. That'd be really fun.
I thought it might have been a myth because that year that I was talking about it with my dad when I was a kid, I found woolly bears with shorter bands and longer bands, and they had seemed to
Hmm.
be making different predictions. And I was never
Yeah.
quite sure if it was true, but
That's fair. It's a fun one, but yeah, no, it's not true.
yeah. Um, so there's a question here about stink bugs. Do you ever
Mhm.
see those at the Aldo Leopold Nature Center? And why do they
Mm.
stink?
Oh, yeah. I don't think I've seen any here. I have seen some in my house. which is not my favorite place to find a stink bug. And like a similar to a lot of other characteristics of bugs, it could be a defense mechanism. So if they are stinky, then maybe something wouldn't really want to eat it, similar to how skunks release that stink spray to try to scare away any predators. That is probably a stink bug's um like defense mechanism to try to protect itself.
Thank you for that. Um, we're thinking about a little bit about the evolutionary timeline. Were invertebrates around before the dinosaurs? Are they
Ooh,
kind of old organisms, like have been around a long time?
yeah, I don't know if before the dinosaurs, but I am certain like during the dinosaurs there were some very big arthropods, which are a type of invertebrate. So they've been around for a long, long time. They were much bigger in the past, like before Ice Age and stuff. Just things were a little bit bigger, that like megafauna. And so there were invertebrates even during the dinosaur times. They just looked probably different than we see them now, but they've been around for a long time.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. That's great. There's a couple of questions about since we saw the slug and
Mhm.
you had said you put some creeping Charlie and some dandelions and some grass in there. Do they only eat like green plants or will they eat brown decaying plants? And is there a type of slug that turns your hands orange?
Ooh, I'll answer the eating one first. They will eat decaying plants as well. Yeah, so like we found them under the log, so they'll find some of that decaying wood and decaying plants. Um, and I am not sure about a slug that can turn your hand orange. I know a lot of them do leave like a slime trail, so maybe there are some that leave an orangish tint, but I have not come across any that turn your hand orange.
Well, there is such a wide variety of
Yeah.
invertebrates. Um, all around the state of Wisconsin and the world.
Mhm.
Did you ever study any ocean invertebrates? Like the invertebrates that might live in
Oh.
the ocean? Can you give us some examples of those?
Yeah, I did not personally study them, but I do know some. Again, like crabs, which live near oceans, and lobsters. Those are all types of invertebrates. Um, I'm trying to think of other main good examples. Those are like my main ones because I just like their hard shell on the outside is very telling of like they have an exoskeleton. That means that they don't have a backbone because we sort of talk about those as they have their backbones outside of their body because that hard shell. But those are some invertebrates from the ocean.
Cool. Um, are there any insects or other invertebrates that are pink in color?
Paint in color. Uh, yes. I'm trying to remember now which ones. I feel like there's probably a moth that is pink. I would not be surprised. There's lots of colors of moths. Um, I can't think of an example right now of other pink insects and invertebrates, but I know that they are out there, and I love pink too, so I love to see that.
Cool. We saw a toad because you're in
Mhm.
Toad Alley, right?
Yes.
We saw the toad under the log. Are there also frogs in the area? And what's the difference between a toad and a frog?
Oh, yes. So there are frogs. We do find a lot of frogs in our pond. And their habitat is their main difference. So toads will largely live on land. They're not really in the water swimming around where the frogs will be in water. Um, and that's like their main habitat is to be by the wetlands. And toads live in more like wetter areas, but not in the pond.
But do toads and frogs both kind of start out as tadpoles and kind of go through that same life cycle?
Yeah, they have a very similar life cycle. It's just
Oh,
mostly where they end up living that is
cool.
different.
Yeah, I know they're not invertebrates, but it was still
That's
really cool
okay.
to
It was
see
a cool
them,
find. Yeah.
And I've always been curious about the difference too, so that was interesting.
Yeah.
So invertebrates are so widely varied, right? Insects and all kinds of other things. Um, do they all have brains?
Oh, I think most of them do. I believe worms don't. So they don't all have brains, but they do have like nervous systems and other those bodily functions. But no, they don't all have brains.
Cool. Um, I don't know if I haven't heard this before, this phrase before, but maybe you have since you know a lot more about this than I do. But have you ever heard of the phrase rainbow insects? And
Oh.
are there any rainbow insects at Aldo Leopold Nature Center?
Yeah, I have not heard of the phrase rainbow insect. Um, but I do know that there are some like very colorful beetles, and I'm forgetting the name of one in particular, but it's like it's not a rainbow, but it does have like a greenish, bluish color to it that is sort of like almost iridescent, so like it looks really nice in the sunlight. So I don't know of any rainbow insects. That would also be really cool, but very colorful, multicolored insects are around.
Yeah. I've seen some of those iridescent beetles when I've been digging in my gardens in my yard here in Madison. Is there one invertebrate that is like the most common or the most easy to find in Wisconsin?
Oh, the most easy to find. I feel like during the warmer time, I would say bumblebees are quite easy to find. I mean, mosquitoes are really easy to find. I don't know how the summer was in other areas of Wisconsin, but we had a mosquito heavy summer. And also worms. Worms are, I feel like, for me, have been the easiest to find when I'm out exploring. And yeah, so those three I would say are the easiest.
That's cool. Awesome. And you mentioned that you were a little bit cautious around some of the spiders. Is that because they're poisonous or are there other poisonous invertebrates?
Yeah, there are other poisonous invertebrates. Spiders in particular, I would say a little bit the poison aspect of it. And also, I feel like they can crawl really fast and sometimes jump, and that like sudden movement sometimes freaks me out, or like feeling that crawling on my skin sometimes doesn't feel great. So I'm not, I feel like I wouldn't hold one unless I knew for sure it wasn't poisonous. But that's not the leading, that what leads my fear of them is not necessarily the poison, because I know some of them are not, just the feeling. And there are other poisonous invertebrates. Um, Scorpions would be invertebrates. The yeah. Um, oh wow, I'm forgetting everything else that exists, but other like poisonous bugs and things will be um are are poisonous. Yeah.
Yeah. Are scorpions mostly, they're not in I've never seen one in Wisconsin. They are
No.
in warmer areas.
Yeah, yeah. They're usually found in warmer areas, like in the desert. So I wouldn't be worried about them here, but that was just my first thought
Sure,
that came to
sure.
mind.
That makes sense. Are so we talked about like invertebrates can have all kinds of different colors. They can be iridescent. They can have all kinds of cool stuff going on with their coloring. Are there any invertebrates that you could like see through?
Oh, that you could see through. Hmm. I'm unsure. I have not learned of any that you could see through, but again, there are so many that I feel like there's probably going to be some like type of worm or um yeah, like worm or like larva that is probably see through, but I haven't come across any, at least not in Wisconsin.
Cool. We have just about 5 minutes left, and I was wondering if you had any advice for all of the students on the call about how to, you know, tap into their own curiosity and the world around them and see like what kinds of things they could learn about just by being everyday backyard scientists in elementary school.
Oh yeah, I love that question. So something that we do here a lot, and I also personally do, is if you are spending a lot of time outside, noticing the changes that are happening outside. So even if you have, for example, I have a bird feeder at my window, and as the seasons change, I notice different birds come to visit or at different frequencies. Or I even got to see a cardinal that was molting. So cardinals will lose their feathers in the late summer to sort of repair them if any of them are broken, and they will regrow feathers. So I got to see that process just by looking out my window and looking at this cardinal that would visit me. You can even like we just saw right now, we flipped over logs and saw different creatures. In the summer, we were finding a lot more. A couple weeks ago, we found some really big worms. So even just exploring out and about, noticing the changes as the seasons change, notice how some of the things that you're looking outside changes. Even a plant, if you just go back to the same flower or the same tree every day or every week that you are looking at it, you can notice how it's starting to change. And that alone is studying what's called phenology, so the changing and the life cycle of living creatures. So that alone is like even just observing is already you're already being a scientist.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yes, of
Are there
course.
any, oh, there's one question here about if turtles are an invertebrate or if they have a backbone.
Ooh. They do have a backbone. Yeah, so they would not be invertebrate.
Cool. Awesome. And then our final question for you is so I know your camera person is Stephanie,
Yes.
and we have Anna here. What is each of your favorite invertebrates?
Oh, okay. So I'll Stephanie can't hear, so I'll ask her the question. They're wondering what your favorite invertebrate is. Yeah. I feel I'll answer for me. I know I've mentioned them a lot, but truly, monarch butterflies, my favorite. My favorite of all time. And I do really love finding slugs. So those are, I know I said favorite one, but maybe two. Yeah. Oh, and Stephanie likes swallowtail butterflies. Yeah, very beautiful.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I appreciate both of you taking the time to
Yeah, of
answer all of these questions and share
course.
your love of nature and invertebrates with us. Students and teachers, thank you so much for taking the time to type in your questions. You had so many wonderful questions. It's obvious you are curious about the world around you and you've thought a lot about some of these different things. Is there any other things you'd like to leave us with, Anna, before we end the call?
Um, Mostly to encourage everyone to go explore out in nature. Absolutely. Just again, just being out in nature, noticing any behavior is already big for being a scientist. And if you want to explore at the Aldo Leopold Nature Center, our trails are open and free. So you can come explore. You can come to Toad Alley, see if you can find that toad again or any other invertebrate. They're always welcome to come here.
It's awesome. It is a really great place. I've been there before. It's
Yeah,
a wonderful place to explore. Thank you so much for taking the time today. We
of
really
course.
enjoyed all of the answers and learning about invertebrates with you. And thanks to everyone else who participated. There's lots of other Wisconsin Science Festival events happening all around the state of Wisconsin. So you can check that all out if you're interested in learning more about science in the next couple of days. All right. Keep being curious. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.